everybody, and welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Orange Zeppelin, and I have a long-standing tradition of doing a self-portrait every year, right at the beginning of the year, usually my very first piece of the year. We're a little bit behind this time, but that's okay. I do have a much more ambitious goal for this self-portrait. I always try to make the self-portrait a little bit better each time. I used to just do them in pencil, and then I started adding more things like markers and oil pastel. This time we're going to be doing this in oil paint, and I'm also going to be working on a larger canvas than I usually do. I am fond of my little tiny art pieces, but we're going to go big this year. I am going to be repainting a canvas that already has an oil painting on it, which, don't worry, I did take a picture of it, which, if you know me, I repaint my art all the time, but I do like to document things, so we are going to be prepping a canvas. Actually, I haven't finished my coffee yet. Then we'll prep a canvas. So I have given the initial painting a sanding already, and this is currently 2 layers thick of gesso, and I'm sanding down each layer of gesso as it goes on. You can see I've already got the little hanging fixture for convenience. You can use, when you're doing your initial sanding down of an old painting, you can use an actual electric sander. I'm just using sandpaper because the problem with sanding a canvas is it is very easy to accidentally just sand straight through the canvas. And I know this because I've done that a few times. And I am just going to leave the sides black and not worrying about gessoing those, because in what I'm going to paint on this, the sides are just going to be black anyway. And you can see it is a beautiful sunny warm day for gessoing, but you can also see we've got a little bit of clouds rolling in. We're going to have some more rain tomorrow, so I wanted to make sure this was done before that comes in. We have had rain almost every single weekend for the last, I don't even know how long that is, which is not great because I work on weekends at a little shop in a place that pretty much, when it rains, business grinds to an absolute halt. And we had several days where we had a bad enough storm that we just closed entirely due to the weather, and that isn't exactly great for our profit. So I am definitely hoping for some consistent sunny weather and not having to ride my bike in the rain. So while we are waiting for that canvas to dry, I got to get a pretty solid attack plan going in terms of figuring out what kind of colors I'm going to be using. I already have a sketch worked out of what my vision is, and I am using, this is actually a cropped version, so I'm using this particular reference image, and I'm going to be linking this person in the video description. This is the Pose Archives, and they are on Twitter, Instagram, and also DeviantArt. I got this particular image off of DeviantArt, so I will have them linked below. I've also got a reference image of the face I make when people tell me to turn down my Slayer. And with the reference image right in front of me, hopefully that'll guarantee that this time around I'm not going to be completely messing up any of my facial features. Okay, so these suck. These are way too waxy. There's not enough pigment. I need to go down with a much, much softer pastel, because this ain't it. So I'm going to go in with a pastel that I actually like quite a bit. This brand here, Paul Rubens, not to be confused with the Pee Wee Herman guy. It even says, feel softer, experience nicer. Anything's nicer than that. So the other thing I was going to say before I threw my tools on the floor like a petulant child is that I am going to change the position of the hand, which I do like that particular position. I like the foreshortening. I do feel that that's a weird way to hold a sword. It makes more sense for holding something like a dagger, or if you're a butcher holding a butcher knife, maybe not in that exact position, but it feels unnatural for a sword. So I am going to bring the hand, I'm going to bring this arm forward a bit and having the sword coming out. So there is going to be a little bit of a play in perspective and foreshortening. It's just going to be in the other direction. And you can also see that I've already kind of scooted the composition over by a couple inches, and ideally we'll be able to see a little more of the sword and it won't just be completely coming off of the composition. Now, alternatively, I could find a way to just really have that sword perspective just facing right out at the viewer. That might be cool. That'll be an exercise in perspective. All right, so I'm going to try to be quiet because my assistants are taking a well-earned nap. I don't want to disturb them. I guess with Catullus it doesn't matter because he's actually deaf, so he can't hear me anyway. But I don't want to wake up Claudia. So, this is what I am calling the completed color model. I went in with some acrylic paint, and the reason I did that is I realized I made a bit of a bad call with the initial background color choice. I went in thinking I was going to do a yellow and orange thing because that's what I really like to do in backgrounds, and then I realized I've got this pop of green here, and if I didn't add green anywhere else, it would kind of make your eye go straight to that green and then just get stuck there almost. If you add color, I was always taught if you add color in one spot, you want to add it somewhere else to make a more cohesive composition. That's one of the rules I tend to go with in terms of color. I also like to use complementary colors. I am going to use a little pop of red in that background, so that's going to be our complement. So with that worked out, we can get started on the actual painting. Alright, so our canvas is ready, and I am going to start out just by putting a very light layer of this cadmium yellow hue in our background, because that's already going to be my background color anyway. It's going to kind of prep the background for us, and then I am going to sketch, essentially, with some of this raw umber. And the nice thing about oils is if you mess up, you can just rub it straight into the background and it's like it didn't even happen. This is the only paint medium in which you can effectively fix your mistakes. If you mess up with acrylics, then you're just going to be spending the next hour trying to fix it. If you mess up in watercolors, well, you're just going to have to make your peace with God over that. I'm going to be diluting my watercolor, no, not watercolor. What am I painting with again? Oils! I'm going to be thinning my oils with some Turpenoid. As one of my painting teachers said, the best thing about Turpenoid is you can't smell it. The worst thing about Turpenoid is you can't smell it. So maybe I should be doing this with proper ventilation, but it's really cold and I have the heater running, so I can't exactly open my window tonight. We're just gonna see how high I get. Alright, so this is where I'm at right now. Definitely we are in a very loose state, but that's pretty much what the idea is with an underpainting. Is I just got everything worked out, very sketchy so to speak, because we are just working in paint. If you are the kind of person who doesn't want to basically freehand the paint, what you can do, if you do have a preparation drawing that is exactly the same size as what you want to go on the canvas, you can actually cover the whole back of your drawing with charcoal and then just lay it on top of your canvas and basically draw over your whole design. And that'll transfer the charcoal onto your actual canvas, and you can just use that as your line art, because that's a good way to avoid doing a pencil sketch directly on your canvas, which if you make a mistake there, then you gotta erase the damn thing, and I feel like that just turns into a bigger mess than it necessarily needs to. But for this, I've just been fighting with doing my sketching in paint, and you can still see there's still a bit of a fight going on. That is not a hand. I don't know what it is. It's supposed to be a hand, but it is certainly not. There is nothing there. The sword, actually, give me a sec. Okay, I actually had perfect reference this whole time for the sword, because I have this sword I made out of wood, and I was kind of just holding the sword like that, trying to figure out, okay, let's try to get this angle worked out. I'm not quite there yet, but I will figure it out. And the background I started going into because I wanted to do these drips with the oil paint. I just got my brush pretty loaded with paint thinner, just rubbed it along this top part of the canvas and let everything drip down. And I did that now so that if it drips all over what I'm doing here, it's not going to be a big deal, because I'm going to start painting over that anyway. And I'm kind of starting to go in with a little more detail here. As of right now, my next goal is definitely get the sword angle right, get a hand that looks like a hand, and then figure out, okay, what is this where I want to put the leg? Am I happy with this entire section here? Because there's something bugging me. I don't know. And then I want to make sure the shield has more happening other than nothing. Okay, so we're in a tiny bit of an oh shit state, which you guys might not actually be seeing this, because what I'm seeing in the camera looks a little bit better than what I'm seeing with my own two eyes, which is a very washed out kind of color on the skin tone. I'm trying to lighten the skin tone away from that bright yellow that I had on the base, something that matches, you know, that blinding whiteness that is me. But I added too much paint thinner into a paint that I already find leans a bit too translucent. So what I'm looking at doesn't look very good. There's this very washed out thing going on here. But this is definitely fixable. Like I always say, is oil paint is one of the more forgiving mediums out there in terms of paint. I am kind of suffering from the fact that I did this wolf cowl before I did the skin, because I'm going to have to go in, and I actually deliberately kept the fangs pretty light in case I did have to redo them, which I definitely will, because I'm going to be kind of dodging where the fangs are when I color the skin. You can also see the sword is in much better state. That kind of could be interpreted as a hand. We're working on that. What I'm kind of thinking is, because I started the blood on the sword and I did want to have some blood splatters in the background, I might want to do that around this point. So I don't, if I accidentally splatter blood on any of the skin here, I'm already going to be doing more work on that to get that further along. So it's not going to be a big problem if I have to cover up some blood splatters. Just going to add some in the background. So already the face is looking way better now. I'm much more happy with this. I'm also going to be going in with a very teeny tiny, if I can focus, kind of focus, there we go, very teeny tiny brush, which traditionally I've always used a specific set of brushes for oils as opposed to any of my other paintings. I just, for whatever reason, think it's a good idea to have them separated, but honestly, as long as they have been cleaned really well and you do get all the residual oil paint off, it shouldn't really matter. And I always do clean my brushes very well. As much as this looks like a giant pile of chaos, I do take care of my brushes pretty well, and I find that my brushes do last a very long time because of that. Which I should definitely buy some more just obnoxiously teeny tiny brushes, because I like to paint very small. Here's my last oil painting compared to what I'm working on right now. That's a nice comfy size for me. There is a benefit of working large, and if I want to get really fussy with details, it's actually going to be a lot easier with a larger canvas. Also, right now, I'm going to add in little bit of the red splatters. I'm not going to make them too drippy because I already have a cool enough drip going on there. I'm just going to do like a tiny bit of splattering. I really hope you can't hear the neighbors vacuuming their concrete or whatever the hell it is they're doing right now. If there's an annoying noise in the background, that's what that is. I should probably go in with some yellow and fix that arm and then do that. And I should probably do the exact same thing around the sword. So I think I need to do a tiny bit more in the background, and then I can get back to this task at hand. Alright, so as of right now, I'm way happier with where the skin tone is right now, although I've definitely, taken some creative license. This is the universe where the sun doesn't have a grudge against me, apparently. But the colors I'm using for my skin tone here I'm using the Artist Loft Flesh tint that I was kind of complaining about earlier, being a little bit on the translucent side, but if you mix it up with the raw sienna and then titanium white, definitely lots and lots of the titanium white, that is working out very well for my skin tone. I've also added in some more paint. I've redone the torque, and next I kind of need to just address the elephant in the room that is whatever the hell is going on with my hand. So my session tonight is going to be trying to get the hand in order, and then also kind of deciding what is going on with my leg here. You can see I've already kind of painted some yellow back in. We're going to be working on that. We're going to see how this works out, because right now this entire bottom part of the painting is just the problem area. I've been working mostly top down, and I am really happy with how it's turning out. It's just that my remaining stuff will be a little bit tricky, I think, anyway. I think it's going to be a little bit interesting painting the chainmail top. It's entirely possible it's actually not going to be that difficult, because if you're going to paint chainmail, I'm assuming the idea is we don't go out of our way to just paint every single little chain. It's mostly you get the idea of chainmail, focus in some spots, it should be good. Alright, another progress update. What I worked on yesterday is I continued my battle with the hand, and I'm thinking it's looking significantly better. And I did take a break to start doing some work on the shield. I still want to paint the design on the shield and then go through and finish it up more. I've got some work on the belt. I feel like there's some just general weirdness happening around here, specifically in relation to the belt and how it doesn't really look like it's wrapping around me right there. So we are going to work on that. But what I think I'm actually going to do over the course of this work week, because I don't know how much energy I'm going to have once I get home from work, is I think I'm just going to work on the sides here. Because you can see I want the shield to wrap around. I want the green on the sides to match the front a little bit better. The top, actually, yeah, the top isn't much further along than that. So that will be my next goal. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not even sure what some of these color combinations are at this point. There's a point where I'm just mixing things on the palette, and I have long since forgotten exactly what it is I'm mixing. But most importantly, I am so close to being finished. So I have gotten some progress on the belt. I want to go in with some more highlights, maybe even some more shadows on the studs. Belt is looking better. I've got that nice kilt wrap tartan going on. As of right now, I am working on the shield, and I'm trying to make this look very much like it has been painted on the wood. So I'm trying to fade it out back into the wood. Basically make it look like there are spots where the paint has started to fade away, because that is going to actually make it look more like paint. I'm trying not to have too much paint thinner, keep a pretty dry brush here. And I wanted to make sure the cracks in the wood were visible over the blue, because that's going to also make it look a little bit more like a design painted onto the shield. I did also do the wrap-around painting over the course of this weekend when I had just the slightest amount of energy left over from my work week. So that is going to leave me with the chainmail, which I think for the most part, as I was saying earlier, I think I really do not need to do that much detail to get this to look like chainmail. At that point, I could start finishing off these little wolf paw things that are not looking 100% there. That will be the next step, and potentially the final step, other than just like little tiny detail work. I want to go a little bit back in on the wolf's fur, kind of fix up that I want to leave it a little bit feathery, but I do want to add some little highlights in the hair. So we are very, 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 very close to being finished. So I have deliberated for a while with my assistant here, and we have come to the conclusion that since I've been sitting here trying to figure out what to do next, that means I need to put the damn brush down. If you don't know what needs to be worked on next, you're done. If you try to push it anymore, you're going to overwork it. You're going to potentially ruin all your good efforts. And so, I am officially declaring the 2024 self-portrait to be completed. This is the energy I want to be bringing into 2024. Am I going to go this hard in subsequent years' self-portraits? Probably not, considering how it is the beginning of April, and normally I do this in January. So, and this is also not the only painting I need to be working on this month, but you guys are going to see... You guys are going to find out all about that. So, one last look at everything. But the final question is, does this actually look like me? Well, maybe I should have put my makeup on first.